I never hate my race, but until recently I didn't know history class was jacked completely. Found my new family with the team going free. My old family doesn't understand me, cause I am so pro-white. No coke, no Sprite, I am rolling with the bubbly, gonna be more white. I saw them twist history right before my very eyes. Insurrection Day, it's in the book and it's all lies. But now I am alive and well to tell it. But will generations down the line be able to sell it? I've always been a thinker on the search for both sides, but they label me an outcast and they cannot tell me why. Guess I'm just a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all to bleed red. I have to protect my family. Why does affirmative action make them not hire me? Even in the countries where I'm the minority. Is my race just that awesome and no other could compete? Is that what the anti-whites are trying to tell me? Why am I always seen as such a threat? To the point they want to strip me down till there's nothing left. Well, friends from high school, man, I haven't kept one, but I got a new crew and it's where I belong. Cause if you ain't going free, you ain't rolling with me. And there are even anti-whites in my own family. But I am the one who's comfortable with myself. I try to save them from the hate so wildly raising hell. Cause I'm the black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. I heard that Scotland is too white, is Nigeria too black? Don't get your panties in a bunch, cause I have the right to ask. See, I'm the black sheep, cause I call it hypocrisy. And the media will give you emotions, but they will not give you honesty. Yeah, you have your feelings, but I have the crime rate. And I'ma shoot to kill if there's a danger my way. So I do not blame the cops, just the ones who are cowards, who hesitate to pull the trigger unless it is one of ours. Cause he's a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I put my people to death.
American schools are hotbeds of anti-American brainwashing. Teachers and administrators are trained to indoctrinate and enforce ideological conformity. Submission is the norm. Crucible is the true story of one schoolboy's struggle against society's obsession with an anti-American ideology. This young man refused to surrender to the psychological abuse of his superiors and the violence of his peers. In Crucible, Child Patriot American Victory, two visions of America collide. One is left standing. That's good. Rolling in on a Thursday night, as you can see. Great to see everybody here. I see JK160 is here. He supplied us with one of the stories, thank you very much, that we're going to be taking a look at about Penny, the Marine veteran. And if y'all want to, continue seeing these types of roll-ins during the week, then we're going to have to get more people coming in. So there'll have to be some sort of effort to bring other folks in, to let other folks know that we're getting together. I want to use my time as wisely as possible. And if this is not going to be the wisest use of my time, then, everybody's got to play a part. So if this is not going to be the wisest use of my time, then I'll do something else for white well-being. But otherwise, it's good to see the folks that have made it here. Franklin's here. He says there was an OT call. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Good to hear it. Thank you for letting me know. Osmuth Clark is here. Missouri Battle Flag. Pear Lady is here. Ray is here. David is here. T is here. Great to see everybody. Mike is here. Hello to you. So what's going on? Looks like my tie can actually be seen this time. I don't know why. Who knows why? Can you see it on the red? It's red and black. Can you see it on your device, whatever you're watching on? It's Mother's Day week. Happy Mother's Day. We'll be here on Sunday. So we'll be here. We'll be celebrating Mother's Day together. Got a couple things that are really important to mention here. Daniel Penny, of course, he's now charged with manslaughter, as I actually specifically said. I think I said manslaughter, but and the thing that was a shock, and we'll take a look at an article in just a moment, but the thing that was a real shock was that I heard that there was no need for a grand jury. They were just like straight to the gallows with the white guy. Just take him straight to the gallows. We also have, of course, Tucker's new show. We'll watch that video of what Tucker is going to be doing here shortly. We have different opinions, different ideas. It seems to be that there's like this general consensus that Musk was not involved and there wasn't behind the scenes. I mean, how absolutely gullible do people have to be to think that? I think Musk going out and tagging, showing up in people's comments who are otherwise not, big content creators, is evidence that this has been in the works for a long time, and they know they're going to need a very different audience. I heard, and I think this can't be right, but that Fox News demographic for the Tucker show, this just certainly can't be right, was in the 70s. I would absolutely say that audience is 40s at youngest, 50s, 60s, and then 70s waning on down as they're dying, as they're losing their lives to old age. And so that being the case, these are not people who are going to go look for Tucker on Twitter. So they got to get a different audience and a brand new audience. And so interesting that suddenly Elon himself is showing up in people's comments and retweeting people who one would consider maybe in the alternative circles, these sorts of folks. So I see that as laying the groundwork for the new audience that they want for Twitter. But we'll talk more about that. And of course, we have this: is it an immigration invasion? I ask you. Title 42 ends at 11:59 tonight. And I know that there is this. Did I pull this up? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I did. An article on Title 42 and the effort by, I think this is it right here. Yeah, so we got an article on that as well that we will peek under the hood at. U.S. finalizes asylum restrictions to ramp up border deportations once Title 42 lapses. CBS. So let me move that. over here. And we got Fox News up live because Fox News actually had a countdown clock for Title 42. Now, the House just passed, and we can all thank Rapunzel for this info. The House just passed a bill that's going to go to the Senate now and will be killed at the Senate. So let me pull this. Well, I don't know if I can do. I guess I can. I guess it doesn't matter. I guess if they want to pull it down, then they'll pull it down, right? And we'll do that. And so here you can see the live footage here. Here there is a countdown clock. 3 hours, 15 minutes, 17 seconds. The crisis at the border impacts the entire U.S. Of course, I hear everybody saying, white people all over the place, comforting themselves, coping by saying, boy, at least I'm not at the border. My friends, it's coming to your backyard. Why is this happening? Of course, there are many reasons, not the least of which is that white Americans, in other words, Americans by blood rather than paper, people who project the West onto their environment, they would never have agreed to a union with the Central and South American countries that would allow people to travel right across the border, just take up residence anywhere they want. And so they are just moving it all. It's just this total victimization of Western kind, total white erasure. None of us wants to live in. I mean, for example, what Biden is doing, and we'll get into it in a moment, but it's going to allow, without any excuses, without like the cottage industry of phony records and phony statements to get you through the questioning, it's going to allow people to continue to come here from Mexico. The rest of them, though, will have to say that they have to prove that they had attempted to get asylum in another country before the United States. Of course, the anti-whites will be all over that, telling these people exactly what they have to say, how they say it, and the lawsuits will be thick and heavy. All right, so where are the numbers here? Staggering numbers. 191,000 in March. Last month. 191,000, and that does not include getaways, according to what I'm looking at. It's just, what else could you call? I mean, these border crossers, what else can you call them? I mean, there are other words. People might use other words like invasion. People might use other words like attack. I mean, what really is it to be invaded, for your country to be invaded by troops? How do you as a citizen, how does your life change? Well, for many citizens, when a country is invaded by a foreign army, very little changes. You get a new flag, so there might be some, depending upon, of course, we can talk about different periods in history and how different populations have been handled. And there are some unique circumstances. But ultimately, you suffer from, citizens will suffer from poverty, their rights will be taken away, isn't that what's happening to us? Isn't it when you have to compete with people? And by the way, it's important to point out here that I have said this going all the way back to when I first started streaming. I've been saying this for a very long time. The anti-white oligarchs knew all along that robots and software were going to be able to do most jobs in Western civilization, that they wouldn't need people for those jobs. And yet, both Republicans and Democrats said, oh, well, we need people. We need more people to come. There aren't enough people to do the job. You have all of these different mean pathogens to sell the white population, Westmen in the United States, on this endless stream of wonderful people from other parts of the world. With the Republicans, it was their meme pathogens where the GDP has to go to the moon. It just has to keep climbing. There could be nothing else as important. Your life is irrelevant. All that matters is the God commerce. And then all the white people lowered their hands. All the Westmen lowered their hands. On the other side of the spectrum, it was, oh, they're suffering, they're needy, they help us to white erase Western norms. And then all the white people lowered, all the Westmen lowered their fists, lowered their guard. Yeah, go ahead. beat the crap out of me. And so what were these people about all along? This is what I've been saying for a very long time. It was never about dollars and cents. It's always been about white erasure. These people are about white erasure. Anti-whites are about white erasure. That's what they are focused on. That's what they want to achieve. Republicans always tried to deflect this into something that they thought would be innocuous, and actually was. It was toothless. They wanted to talk about abstractions. No, don't talk about race, because that's just unsavory to talk about race, even though that's where you're being attacked. Refusing, as I said earlier, if you're going to refuse to acknowledge where you're being attacked, then you're just going to keep losing. And that's what happens. So tell us about the money. Let's have conversations about the money. It was never about the money. They always knew that there were going to be machines and software that were going to do nearly everything. Sam is here. Great to see you, brother. Says white erasure in their minds is called social credit. Well, yeah, they believe it's moral to be anti-white, because that's the anti-white morality, isn't it? It's moral to be anti-white. Yeah, this was of course Tucker's hour that we're starting during, and now they had some other stand-in, some woman over there on Fox. So let's go ahead and get into what we have here. Might as well. And we will change this to, let's get to Tucker. Since this is Tucker's hour, let's go ahead and see. Poor Tucker, huh? Poor Tucker, the multi-millionaire. I just want to remind everybody. Now, who knows what Tucker's going to end up doing once he has his show. If you weren't aware, Tucker Carlson is going to be starting a show, doing something very similar he did on Fox. He's going to be starting the show on Twitter. So it's fascinating. There's going to be streaming, I presume, or maybe just for the select, they'll be streaming. We'll share this to get started. Just to take a step backwards, because Tucker has made statements over the years that I thought I'm pretty lenient when it comes to folks who they appear to be just villainy signaling anti-whiteism. And Tucker has really come to that line where I think, okay, is this guy just radically anti-white? And he is dog whistling those who care about Western norms, Western standards, Western kind. And that's where we're at. So he's going to have the liberty on Twitter to say whatever he likes, to a degree. His family, he still has to bank. He still has to have his children out in the world. So he's free to a degree. He's certainly going to be freer than he was on Fox News, which should mean that he would be able to talk to those who advocate for white well-being. It should mean that. So he's going to be able to clear it up very quickly about whether or not he secretly agrees with folks. I keep hearing this, especially from the misled patriots. The misled patriots always, they say, Tucker, he's actually with us. And he's got to say, it's the perennial excuse given to all Republicans and conservative content creators, the perennial excuse all the way until they retire and dead. It was so many of them are now dead, and they're pushing up daisies from a pine box, and they got excuses. So when were they actually going to stand up for Western kind and white people, Westmen? When were they going to actually stand up for them? What about Limbaugh? I heard excuses for Rush Limbaugh for decades. He's really one of us. Oh, okay. So he's really one of us. And now he's dead. And so what did he end up doing? When was going to be the big reveal? When was going to be the big takedown of the opposition? And white people matter. Their victimization is wrong. It's wrong to be anti-white. Anti-whiteism needs to be put into the paper shredder of history. When was that going to happen? If you just give people excuses for not doing something, then isn't really what matters the fact that they're not doing it? Misled conservatives, misled patriots. The people are good. They're misled. So is Tucker going to be a misleader over there at Twitter? I hope not. I hope he's going to come out and say, hey, let's talk about white well-being, and how it's important and how it's wrong that white people are victimized on the basis of our birth as a biological reality, not as an abstraction, not as something that needs to be dismissed, not as something that our biological reality is irrelevant. All that matters is our abstractions. Screw that. Our biological reality is not irrelevant. Our abstractions, our laws, our governments, our philosophy, our poetry, etc., our high and low culture, it only matters insofar as we matter as a flesh and blood people. It doesn't come out of other people. It comes out of us. So anyhow, I wanted to go over to this Adam Carolla video, and there was a commercial playing. I thought I would pause it so y'all could see over there on Adam Carolla's channel when he interviewed Tucker Carlson. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Everywhere you go, white erasure, biological white erasure here. This is Men's Warehouse. Really? Do they need to pair a white woman with the non-white guy in matrimony and the biological white erasure of Western kind? Isn't that kind of relevant? I hope Tucker will think so. I hope Tucker will talk to people who care about white well-being on Twitter. That'll go a long way to demonstrating that he actually does have a commitment, at least at minimum, a genuine commitment to free speech, to hear all sides. And I would think certainly if he is as moral as he presents himself to be, then he would feel it incumbent upon him to hear from those who speak up against the victimization of Western kind, especially those like us who point out that anti-whiteism is the greatest evil of this age, and if and when defeated, will benefit everyone. Because those norms that everybody cares about getting white erased, those are our norms. They're not norms that came from Africa. They're not norms that came from Asia, in my opinion. Those are norms that we are told today, that are decried today as morally bankrupt. Those norms, those standards, unhinged. They have to be erased. They have to be inverted. And that is then what is celebrated. So let's hope that Tucker, and I say this because I have a little bit of a suspicion. Let's watch this clip and we'll go back to the suspicion. We'll see what you all are saying. As is always the case, I'm streaming all over the place, and you can financially gift over at Entropy, and you can financially gift at DLive and their cryptocurrency. You can financially gift at Odyssey and their cryptocurrency, and also in cash, and you can financially gift on Cash App. Everything that is financially gifted will be read, even if I have to modify it a little bit to protect the channel because you were insane when you wrote it. Otherwise, tag me as No White Guilt, and I'll read your comments and questions. And please share the URL while we're here together so that we can keep doing physical roll-ins like this because of the benefit they provide to our people. So let's go ahead and look at this. Men's Warehouse, despicable anti-white garbage.
The way you look. Scan now, and we'll help fit and find your look with our new Wedding Wingman tool.
Here, Navy SEALs, 3 rules for surviving a real-world assault. Rule number 1, always fight dirty.
How do I get by this?
Symbolic present.
The last ad there looked like 2 Hispanic people. So why are the Hispanic man and woman together, but then the white woman's with a non-white man? Isn't that fascinating? It's all just chance. Actually, if you're watching this, you're new or whatever, nothing in advertising is chance. Everything is specifically examined and decided and is reviewed by multiple levels of people. Nothing happens by chance. People actively said, I want a white woman with a white bride with a non-white groom. They specifically said that. And then people reviewed it. That's some sick people that would do that, knowing the consequences for the white race. We can biologically see the consequences. The children might be wonderful. They might be moral. They might be great contributors to the countries in which they're born. They might be, all of that can hold true. And yet it's also true that it's biologically white erasing Western kind. And that, of course, we condemn as the greatest evil because we see it as it is, as one of the many ways that a people can be genocided from this planet. Now, absolutely, people of different races fall in love. They do it all the time. We acknowledge that that happens. So we're not some sort of like tin hat, two-dimensional, right out of like some LARPing movie character that you can just put into a box, you know what we think. Absolutely not. Cool Papa J Magic is here. Great to see you. Montana Kid is here. Samantha is here. Great to see you. All right. Let us continue. Here is Tucker, and this was the most grievous thing that he has said recently when it comes to the white race. Now, I've taken a second look at it just before we got started here, and there may be a way out for him, what he says here. So let's take another look. I want to believe that he's going to start a show on Twitter and that he's going to care about white people as much as he cares about any other group of people, and that the targeting of white people, which everyone can see, surely he can see it, is going to be something that he's willing to talk about and denounce as reprehensible and as immoral. And that while it is beautiful to and wonderful for Hispanic people, for example, we were just talking about, to celebrate the richness of their culture, what they project out onto the world, while that's beautiful, it's also beautiful for Westmen, white men, women, and children, to celebrate what we project out onto the world. We do have a job that has to be tackled as white people. And that is that we have folks who attempt, and very often in many arguments and conversations, hijack the defense of our people, the celebration of our people, to use it as an excuse to victimize other groups. We can't let that happen anymore. We absolutely cannot let that happen anymore. We are here to serve white well-being. We are putting an end to anti-whiteism. If ending the victimization of white people doesn't satisfy you, then you have a different objective. Does that make sense? Here, our objective is to end the victimization of white people as a consequence of anti-whiteism. That secondarily, as collateral damages, victimizes everybody of all races across the West. It's a fact. It's easy to see. Can debate anybody on it. If we could do this and end the victimization of Western kind, then what more needs to be done? If our victimization is done, that means we can celebrate ourselves, we can be prideful, we can be happy, we can go out into the world, we can have our festivals, we could have festivals that celebrate our people and our heritage and the West. I mean, what would be the problem then? What would really be the problem? If the victimization of white people was prohibited and gone, what would be the problem? If you say, no, more's got to be done, then you have a different objective. And you're just using our welfare as an excuse. And that's one of the reasons why somebody like Tucker might not talk to those who stand up for white well-being. And then you have to wonder, so then who is financing, who is motivating, who is, etc., these groups that hijack the defense of Western kind? Let's listen to Tucker carefully here, and then we'll get on to his video that he just released on Twitter about the upcoming show.
Here's a symbolic victory for you. we passed that. Right. I will say this, if I can just make one prediction. So the United States is becoming non-white. Everyone's excited about it. Or whether you're not excited about it, no, it doesn't matter.
Now, when he said everyone's excited about it, looking at it critically, he doesn't seem excited about it. It doesn't mean he's not excited about it. Kind of like a poker player there. He says it doesn't matter whether you're excited about it or not, it's going to happen. And it is going to happen. But do not look at it's going to happen in 2030. That's my prediction. It's been my prediction for years. So by 2030, irrespective of what the federal government tells you, white people will be a numerical minority in America, in my opinion. Now, they might tell you right then, they might say, oops, we did the math wrong. You're now a numerical minority. And then they're going to call us legacy majority or majority minority. They'll call us these things to continue to victimize us. And that, of course, doesn't even speak to the fact that written in laws we've looked at before, and please check it out on your own. White Student Transmission pointed this out, and some others pointed this out, that they've actually defined minority, the word, in law as non-white people. So please check it out for yourself. I am saying that as a heuristic, so you will go and research. Maybe I'm wrong. But don't lament. Don't fall down into the doldrums because we are a numerical minority in the United States. The reason I say this is because that's not the moment that we're defeated. We were defeated before you were born. I don't care how old you are. We were defeated before you were born. That's how do you think these kinds of indignities happen to a people who aren't defeated? Seriously. You're not thinking very much if you think these kinds of indignities. Just think back in time and pick any kingdom, pick any empire, and imagine that the citizens of that, the serfs, whatever you want to call them, of that kingdom, of that empire, of that country, of that nation, imagine that they were subjected to the kind of persecution, exploitation, degradation that Western kind, are subjected to every single second across the West. Would you still think that they were in charge, that was their country, that they weren't defeated? This only happens to a defeated people. If you look at it, if you look backward in time and you look at conquered countries and peoples and nations, and you see what befell them after an invading army came in, you'll see that it's, in many cases and in many ways, the exact same things that we are subjected to today. So then what's the only difference? The only difference is that the defeat didn't happen by way of a conquering army, because it couldn't. Western kind had reached its zenith of power. Nothing on planet Earth could come, all the rest times 10 couldn't come close to defeating Western civilization in physical conflict. Nowhere close. And so victory had to be had by another means, by concepts which animate people. People, the vessels that make things happen in the world. So you didn't see the conquering army, but it was here. It just looked different. I was able to see it, and I was able, just like the champions who have come to white well-being, to formulate a plan to defeat it that works by example everywhere. And if everybody or more people don't start doing it, things are just going to get a lot worse before they get better. And if they get better, and worse definitely doesn't mean better. I just responded to a comment that said, really looking forward and hoping for the economic collapse of the United States so that some will survive. Whatever power you are able to that you have today to push back on this system, you will be lowered commensurately. As the United States economically, militarily, or whatever it is, gets weaker, you also are made weaker by it. You are a vassal in that system. You don't remain the same. Well, maybe Tucker's going to come in and he will actually do the right thing. He'll be legitimate. Maybe then he'll even talk to somebody like me, and then the message will be able to reach normal people. So we're not always trying to pull our way up out of this quagmire of LARPery and the constant slanderings and the constant on and on. So he says it's going to happen, whether you like it or not. Now and some are happy, but some aren't.
Whites are going to be in the minority. So what that means soon. So what that means is you're going to get at some point, probably in my lifetime, people standing up and saying, I represent white people. I'm the candidate of the white voter.
Right.
And I just want to say,
this is where he said the thing that everybody, got fired up about.
on the record, that I'm going to tell that person to fuck off, because
what he says next is what's relevant here. Because is he telling this candidate or this white Sharpton, is he telling him to fuck off because white people don't deserve representation, or white people, their victimization shouldn't matter? He specifically says here, and then he does follow up, and we'll watch, just pay close attention. As I'm reevaluating this, I wanted to have another look at it. I'm reevaluating it a little bit.
nobody speaks. I'm an adult man, and nobody speaks for me because he shares the same skin color as me.
I think that's a fair point. Looking back on this, nobody speaks for me because he shares the same skin color. That's a fair point. Now, this is one of those areas where Tucker has, for me over the years, done what we refer to as villainy signaling enough times that I've really come up to that point where I think he's dog whistling us to make us think he cares. He throws in anti-white here and anti-white there to make us think that, yeah, he actually feels the suffering. He actually of Western kind in America and the rest of the West. You know, he does this villainy signaling, and it's like, okay, is it actually that he just wants to carry us along for the ad dollars, and I know there are a lot of now conspiracy theories out there. Alex Jonesian, and I know Jones has, he's done a service for some people, and he's provided some good information. I'm not saying, I am going to say that I don't, if you get right to the root of it, to the nerve of it, I'm not going to say that, definitely not going to say that Tucker is controlled opposition or that Jones is controlled opposition. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't currently be or have been or could be in the future or manipulated without them knowing it. All of that is true as well. But we need to take the information that we're able to gather with a grain of salt, because we can't be omniscient. We have to make decisions that serve our well-being with the information that we are able to accumulate. And I know people are talking about, well, his dad was in the CIA and all of this other business. Okay, well then, now knowing that, it really is irrelevant, aside from the fact of now knowing it. If he does things in the future that seem to comport with misdirecting or revectoring energy and funds and things like this from the pushback against anti-whiteism into something that's feckless or even moribund, well, then we'll say, whoa, this seems to be confirming. But sitting around and talking about what his father did or didn't do, and then any specific ties, right? This is an entirely, totally enormous waste of time. And I understand people like Alex Jones and others out there who want to spin these wild yarns and shout and everything because they make use of that desire to know in order to protect oneself. That's innate in the human animal. And look at how wealthy people can get doing that. They can get really wealthy doing that. I mean, time and again. You want to know when people are like cult leaders and you want to know when they're just rent seeking. It's when you can clearly see them pulling the levers of human manipulation for dollars. Every lever that gets pulled pours more dollars into their bank accounts. That's how you identify somebody like that. So listen to the next. It's a pretty fair point to say nobody speaks for me just because they have the same race. Now he's trivializing race as skin color, which is a misleading conservative thing to do. Every good conservative person out there, good patriot out there, good nationalist out there has been misled to believe with the meme pathogen, anti-white idea that race is just skin color. So much so that now you see these misled patriots attempt to own anti-whites with, I'm more your ideology than you are. I don't care. It's just a skin color. He's just been in the sun a little bit longer than I have. Race is far deeper than skin. That's the least. Now, it doesn't mean that there's value, more or less value in race. There's no cosmic measuring stick, as we talk about all the time. And I repeat certain things because I want you to be able to have those tools because I know how powerful they are. I know how powerful they will be for you in your conversations. It's a truth that we feel and we want to convey to the world so that they know us as apart from, totally different from the LARPers out there. The tags for antagonist, playing the villain in the anti-white narrative. Okay? If we don't really draw a stark line there, people like Tucker and those who work for him, who go out into the world and they look around about, well, where can we get that energy? Where can we get that intelligence? Where can we get, etc.? They won't be able to see the difference between us and those people. They'll just categorize us all in the same lot. And that category is called the trash can. So it's a fair point, though, although he trivialized it and villainy signals with this race color, that nobody speaks for you just because they're of the same race.
Like, I just reject that entire idea. If I agree with you, I'll let you speak for me. And if I don't, I won't. But this idea that someone of a certain skin color, any skin color, or any ethnic background speaks automatically on behalf of all people who share that skin color, ethnic background is a Nazi idea, and I'm totally opposed to it.
So I doubt he really understands when he says it's a Nazi idea and understands in the way that we do. He's obviously a very bright person, but understands in the way that we do that what is Nazi for us is what the anti-white narrative teaches to us. So irrespective of some sort of objective investigation or what a deity would say about what really happened, what really took place, what really were the, irrespective of all that, or maybe he's right about it. I don't know. I don't look in the rearview mirror. I don't care. My existence, my well-being, the well-being of my people, the well-being of white children coming up, for me, is not dependent on, it's not going to be determined by whether or not X, Y, or Z happened in the past and is defined as A, B, and C. I don't care. What I care about is the ending of the victimization of us today. And just as an aside for those who have become too vainglorious and they can't see past, they have this opportunity cost. What did First Last call it? The opportunity cost, because they've invested so much of themselves and their identity, and they've suffered already so much being the antag in the anti-white narrative that they just never want to pull away. I really don't care what they have to say. And I don't care about what they think. All that matters, and this is the little hint that I'll throw to them, and everybody else out there that is sort of on the fence, because there are a lot of folks out there that are not antags. They're not playing the villain in the anti-white narrative, but they think they're being edgy by sort of hinting that way. Like they might agree with it a little bit. And really that is to placate the folks who will just slander, smear, and do everything they can to try to drive audience away from them. But if our environment was one in which white people came together as Westmen, as Western kind, and said there will be no more victimization, then things like the celebrations, the pride, the love, the statues, the history, these things will work and will be, specifically we'll talk about the history, will be examined again, will be examined anew. What we have been given by the anti-white narrative might in certain cases be the truth, and in other cases be 90% the truth, and in other cases be 20% the truth. We deserve to know. We're never going to get to whatever that is. And it doesn't matter if you can get to it in your parlor with one other guy there who also doesn't have a job. What matters is that it becomes the conversation of the society. So he villainy signals from the anti-white narrative that it's a Nazi thing to do, because why? Just like he's done other times, and it's really disgusted me, and I've like turned off the television when he has said these things, when he makes an appeal to the broader anti-white narrative, because he knows how that will be taken and received by his audience. All right? So reevaluating this, it might be another example of a guy who is villainy signaling. Who knows where his actual, don't ever concern yourself with, is he our guy or not? Don't ever do that. It doesn't matter. He's going to make it very clear whether or not he's going to be genuine, honest, and a catalyst for truth as objectively as he can see it, in a way that enables us to put an end to the victimization of Western kind, and therefore into the victimization of everyone of all immutable characteristics. You can disagree with us on whether or not you feel that ending anti-whiteism will benefit everybody. You could disagree with us, but that's our genuine sentiment. And I can make intelligent arguments, well-reasoned arguments to that end. All right? So I think the verdict, as is the case in all of human endeavor, continues to be out, and it always will be out. And we'll just see on a maybe show by show, event by event, year by year basis where he falls, where Twitter is going to fall, where Elon Musk is going to fall in all of this. Now, if you feel that you're getting insight that's better and deeper and smarter and richer than you get elsewhere, or that others get elsewhere, you're going to have to play a part. You're going to have to help advertise the work that we do here. You're going to have to help us reach more and more people, because we showed without a shadow of a doubt that I had followers of mine on Twitter watch on their accounts to see if they got any alert for me tweeting, and they got nothing. That's reminiscent to us of shadow banning. That's what it looks like. I make a message, no one, a smaller percentage than should gets the actual alert. Then when I start talking about that on Twitter, all of a sudden my follower count starts going back up, and just this past Sunday we hit 20,000. Isn't that something? How many people would we have actually following us if we didn't have the anti-whites at YouTube and we didn't have the anti-whites maybe at Twitter? It does seem like shadow banning. I hope that's not the case. I can't know for sure. So I'm not going to take a firm position, a 100% position. If we didn't have all of the shadow banning on Facebook and everywhere else, do you really think that Rumble, for example, is going to be some sort of a haven for free speech? Are you kidding me? They're going to allow on that platform only that which they want. And when I say allow, let me define it. They'll allow, generally speaking, everyone to participate. But who will they allow everyone to know about? That's totally different. So you're going to have to play a part. And there are people who have gone to enormous lengths with their time, with their creativity, with their energy, and with their money to get the work that we're doing here. It's absolutely nonsensical that we don't have audiences, and we don't need a single person, not a single audience member from the explicit white sympathetic sphere that is an antag. We don't need one of them, not a single one. There are ordinary white people in their hundreds of millions that can hear this message and that can find something of value from it and would be willing to follow it. Let's take a look at, and then we're going to get into what Alvin Bragg plans to do to Penny. Ruin another white man's life. One thing, well, let's get into the video, and then we will, let's listen. How long is it? It's only 3 minutes. I will stop it a couple times during the first playthrough so that I don't get a strike for just playing it straight out. So for everybody who gets, upset about that, then reevaluate whether it's worth getting upset over so that the channel's just not given a strike.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact.
He really likes that shirt. Wasn't he in that shirt with Corolla? All right.
True in the literal sense. It could pass one of the
let me
media's
just
own
jump.
fact or read the New York Times. But most of the time, Carlson, you often hear people say the news is full of lies. But most of the time, that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated.
Have you heard this from me? I mean, it's actually in my book. Been talking about this for a very long time. He's accurately stating what's happening. Baron White says that my posts don't appear in his thread. I suggest to you the only way to attempt to maybe, maybe the shadow banning's turned off, or I don't know, but click the bell on my Twitter, if that's what you're talking about, if it's not YouTube. Follow me on Telegram as well. Click the bell, and then technically you should get every single thing I do. You should get an alert for every single time I do anything on Twitter. I mean, that's what we're going to need to tell everybody. So if folks show up in the live chat or in the thread afterward and they say, I'm on Twitter, I never get what Jason, please jump in there and say, hey, click the bell on there. We've got to work together. We have to have the teamwork here. This has got to be team white well-being at all time of the day. We all have to be putting our best foot forward to grow. I mean, the power of the lexicon, of the lexical dialectical method of Go Free doesn't need a giant audience. But audience, asses and seats, is how most people evaluate truth. Now, Francis Bacon is spinning in his grave knowing that, but I guess he knew that even then, that people who were on the dimmer side, and also for a form of shorthand, they have no other way. You know, they don't necessarily have time to sit down and look through and etc. And so they revert to this unhealthy shorthand to determine what's truth, what's working, what do people want to know, what can help us, what can benefit us. And that shorthand is audience size. You'll often see people come to our conversations and they'll say, with all of our victories, lives saved, children born, children named after me, anti-whites defeated at university, at the job, people excelling at work now because of going free, people excelling in school, people, we could go on about the successes. Literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of testimonials. And if you want to broaden the word testimonial out just to everybody saying this is really awesome, thousands, all right? But long testimonials, very specific testimonials, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. That doesn't happen anywhere else, period, into the conversation, nowhere else. And you'll have people come into this community and they'll say, oh, well, this guy or that girl or whatever is far more valuable, far more powerful because they have a bigger audience. So it's a form of shorthand, which even people like Tucker could fall prey to, or the people who work with him who have to go out and find the talent. And let's talk about that talent in a minute. Somebody remind me, because they need to get Tucker, as I said earlier in this roll-in gathering, that Tucker needs a new audience. He's not starting on Twitter with the audience that he had on Fox. Far fewer of those people are tech savvy. And even when there's some that are totally tech savvy, even more tech savvy people in there, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, more tech savvy than some teenagers, because they learn how to do one simple thing where they can just scroll through their brain dead drooling TikTok nonsense. And that's it. They don't know anything else. Now, I got it. But you have far fewer people of those age groups that are as tech savvy. But more importantly, even if they know how to do it, they don't want to. Why would you go and get your phone or your tablet or get on the computer? If you're one of these older people, why would you go get one of these things and go hunt down on Twitter, when is Tucker going to be on? Let me write myself a note, instead of just being able to sit down in Lazy Boy and click on Fox. All they got to do is remember the number for the company that provides their internet and their television. Just remember what channel it's on by way of that company, turn it on, and there you got your Tucker. So Tucker's going to need a new audience. He's going to need a younger audience. If his appeal, other than, and I want you to note this as well, much of the big appeal that Tucker has right now is, what's he going to tell us about the inside? So it's not, and I know that Tucker is, and the people working with and for him, and Musk and with and for him, vis-a-vis Tucker and the new show, I know they're thinking about this. They're thinking there's a big balloon here. There's a bunch of people who want to know, like, the really juicy details of what's going on in Fox, what's going on in the mainstream media. Is he going to be telling that on the first show? These people will be patient for a number of shows, and then they'll bail. They know this. So they're going to have to make appeals. The opposite, of course, this is like that, what is it, the Arab, what is this, whatever nights, what is that again? Where the woman kept telling the stories every night, and that kept her alive. Was it the Nights? What was that called? Tucker's going to have to handle his secrets like that to keep the audience that I just described. Not the totality, but that big chunk that's there just for those juicy bits. He'll have to just dole it out little by little. 1001 Nights? Arabian Nights, yeah. Thank you for that, Alex. So, he's going to have to cover other subjects. If the younger demographics, we're talking here, maybe early 40s, 30s, 20s, if they were interested in what Tucker was saying before, they would have been there on Fox. They would have been already imbibing his material in large numbers. Of course, there are individuals. So he's going to need to appeal to them, right? So that means he's going to have to bring on content creators that they recognize, that are already sort of speaking their language. That can mean potentially some good things and potentially some challenging things for us. Because many of these folks who are in the, we might call them like alternative, in their world, they would call themselves right-wing. We don't use the right-left paradigm because it's erroneous. It's a part of the anti-white narrative, and it's in place to handicap you so that you just keep getting defeated. But they would call themselves right-wing. Many of those people, the difference between them and Fox News or so many of the others is really just a hair's difference. They're very similar. They might be a little bit more willing to speak negatively about all of the money and weapons in foreign aid that go to Israel, for example. But really, when you get right down to it, so much of it is the same. At least until where you come upon the cranks. So we could talk more about that. I'd like to hear your thoughts too. I'd like for you to tag me and hear your thoughts. Victorian time traveler also saying Arabian Nights. That's it. I kept thinking the horse, and then I was like, that's not right. A beautiful animal, by the way.
How does that work? Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year. What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business.
That was a subtle and powerful teaser. We can tell you stories. That's what all of these views, 25.8 million views. That's what they want to know. What stories are you going to tell us about the inside?
At this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess. It's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech.
Now, what I would like to see him do, perhaps he'll just steal it from me. Perhaps he'll actually have me on to talk about the fact that speech is hearing, speech is reading. Freedom of speech is the freedom to share and imbibe, whether by hearing or reading or touch, braille, ideas that conflict with the mainstream take, or even the holders of power, what they want the population to believe. That is what our founding fathers meant by freedom of speech, in my humble opinion. in my humble opinion. Who the hell am I?
The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has...
Now, I want to say, I got to jump in there again. Sorry, I wasn't going to do that. But there are a lot of people now that are saying, oh, well, Twitter's not for free speech because they've taken these vile antags off of the platform. Of course, you have to have, and I've always been for this, you have to have a good and bad part of town. Could you imagine that you go to your county meeting and, or, you know, let's take it out of the county, let's take it out of a government, let's put it into just like you're in your peaceable neighborhood with your peaceable neighbors, and smart people, level-headed people are going to come together to discuss challenges to our society. Could you imagine if the vile refuse were to pour out of the holes, the dark places in society that house such conceptions, and allow them to come into the conversation, to bully, to threaten, to intimidate? I mean, how did we get away from all of the superstition? We could have never in the West gotten away from all of the rank superstition that so much of the world even continues to wallow in if it weren't for silencing people who were too vile, too violent, too low IQ'd to understand what a detriment they were to society and themselves. You have to have a good part and bad part of town on the internet, just like there is in the real world. And so when you have people that show up, and a great example, of course, are these J-Spurgs, who, when you mention, for example, as I mentioned, that when you slander these people on the basis of their birth, with all of the and these anti-whites and the cases where they are genuine and they're real, you're putting forth these anti-whites of this group and then slandering the total with that, how that always ends up harming white people. And we just had massive examples of that, statewide examples of that. And then what's the response of the J-Spurgs? More charts of more anti-whites out of that community. That is not logical. It's not based in reason. It is totally nonsensical. It is totally low IQ'd. And since they are low IQ'd, and since they are irrational, since they are given to bizarre superstition, they resort to violence to make their point. And in this case, on the internet, where you can't actually, say, throw a Molotov cocktail through a guy's front window or what have you, they do things like they dox you and they tell people where you work, and they tell you, they reveal your home address, and they slander you with total falsehoods that are of the most revolting type in order to turn people away. This is the violence of the low IQ'd. And all good people can see it. Good people in the West are going to have to come to grips. This broad center of good people in the West are going to have to come to grips with the reality that not everybody's opinion is the same. Not everybody should be able to shout down and slander and ruin those who won't agree with them, or to initiate, by way of sharing the information, physical attacks on them, their family, and etc. The broad center is going to have to realize that. in the Enlightenment, we came away from this with this idea that everybody needs to, the only way to counteract tyranny is that every single person has to be able to voice their opinion and be able to barge their way bumptiously into the room and threaten and like a troglodyte wielding an AK-47, demand conformity with an answer that doesn't speak to any of the questions. So those people should be kept in the bad part of town. The broad middle should restrict them from participating in the good part of town. There's a big difference between sharing positions in a reasonable and logical way, and when you are defeated, you go home with your tail between your legs, you rework your theories or what have you, or you change your mind. And what you see the vile part of town actually do. You see them do it online all the time. So I'm fine with them cutting all those people off on Twitter.
Has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
All right. When is soon? Does anybody know when the show will be airing? I don't imagine it'll be immediately. There is, of course, right now what's going on is wrangling between Tucker's lawyer or lawyers and Fox News because he had a non-compete agreement, ostensibly, which means that he could not take his show on the road and prop it up someplace else to compete with Fox News. But it appears that that's exactly what he's going to do. I think he has maybe a score of million more dollars coming from them in the contract, because on some level, since he still is contractually bound to Fox, he's not actually released from them, even though he and his show has been canceled from Fox, if that makes sense. So he's going to have to hash that out in some shape or form. Maybe, since he is pretty independently wealthy, I understand, he would be willing to go the direction of thumbing his nose at the system of what have you, and forego some. I can't say for sure. We're just going to have to observe what he does once the show runs and airs on Twitter. What kind of personalities he brings up, what kind of things he ignores and indulges, and are we going to get the same? Are we going to end up with the same misled patriotic ideas that lead us down into dead-end alleys as we've gotten generation after generation after generation? It's just going to be a matter of observing. I hope in my heart that Tucker is doing the right thing, that he's sincere, and that when it comes to, surely he would object to the victimization of Jewish people on the basis of their birth, that he feels the exact same way about the victimization of white people on the basis of our birth, and that those who work to put an end to that victimization with not only no harm to anybody else, but also to the betterment of everybody else, that he will give a voice to. We'll see. We'll see what it comes down to. I'll take a look at what you all are saying. Financial gifters come first, and then we're going to get into Alvin Bragg and what he's doing to Penny, Daniel Penny, which here we have another white person trying to uphold the standards of the West. The standards of the West. Where do those come from? They come from white people. We have civility because it is what we refer to as civility, because it is instinctual in us, because the broad middle forced it upon everybody else. They didn't allow the ruffians to show up and besmirch the work of good people. When the Daniel Pennies in healthier times, not only were they heroes like today trying to maintain the civility, if that was really his goal, I'm not in his head, so I don't know really what was in his head. We'll find out what the jury says what's in his head. But in earlier times, it would have been a white person that he put into a headlock who would have come up to silence somebody with his vulgar, violent, voice-raising nonsense, illogicality. Let me see what y'all are saying. All right, over here on entropy, and there is nothing. There is nothing on the live. And there are 5 library tokens over on Odyssey. Thank you so much. Who'da thunk it over there on Odyssey for those tokens? Oh, asking this question. Did the anti-white ad say non-white is the new man? I don't think it said that. You mean, was it written on the screen? I didn't. Or oral, was it oral? I don't know. I didn't hear that. If anybody else, maybe they could chime in, let us know if that's what it said, either written or on. Is first last here? We will wait for first last. Get out your, please, folks, a man that deserves a lot of respect because he gives a lot of respect. Dr. I. Raucous emojis, please. Applause. There's the great 4-0 is with us, actually. Wonderful to see you, kind sir. A true champion in service to white well-being, taking no shit off the ruffians, off the antags who want to silence those who don't want to do everything their way. Continue to lose and continue to harm our people every day. True champ. The great Dr. I coming in with a financial gift of 50 US appreciative dollars. Good Lord bless you. Prometheus bless you, my friend. A big salute. 007s, 95s. How about some team white well-being, team WWB? Because that's what we are. Think of yourselves as a team. We are a team here. We're working together. There's no solo person in the limelight. We're a team, team WWB. Dr. I writes here, he says, it's taking a long time, but I'm learning. Thank you. Well, thank you for that humility too, brother. What a true champ. God bless you, brother. Dr. I with 50 white well-being appreciative dollars and a heaping sum of humility. God bless you, man. That's a real guy. Azimuth Clark says, more than just a team, we're a family. Amen to that, brother. So true. The great Elaine Sabatino and Amma are both here. Hello, sisters. Lunders Thunder from Down Under is with us. Great to see you. Helios Abbott is here. Davey is here. Buscape apparently is here. Yeah, there he is. Great to see you. Has anybody heard of Daniel Penny? This is the subway veteran, Marine veteran, who is in, I believe, his early 20s. And he was confronted with a challenging scenario on a train, subway train. where a guy who at one point had impersonated Michael Jackson for payment out on the streets, and is not that. He really is much better known for 40-some arrests, violence, attacks, things of this nature. Please check it out for yourself, just in case I have any of that wrong, because I'd like to know the truth of this guy. You know what I mean? Blue Acid is here. Kinfolk is here. Poor Bear is here. Athonite is here. What does that mean? Athonite. Grand Flasherb. Hello and welcome. Johan here. Hello to you. Welcome. The great Victorian time traveler. Brian is here. Media Streams is here. All right. I don't see any tags for Tucker. No Tucker tags. So we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next. Athonite is the site of a world-renowned Orthodox monastery. Is that it? Or were you answering somebody else's question? All right. Let's go ahead and get into this. Alvin Bragg caves. He caves, according to Slay News. He caved to Al Sharpton and AOC. Charges Hero Marine Daniel Penny with manslaughter. He doesn't cave. He's radically anti-white. Alvin Bragg. He says so. Himself. Boy, Sharpton looking like he has AIDS. One can only hope. The Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, is caving, whatever, to Al Sharpton and AOC, and will criminally charge the Hero Marine who stopped a dangerous ex-convict from threatening subway riders. And we heard, whether true or not, the jury will decide, I guess, that this deranged individual had thrown his jacket to the ground, and that, of course, is a sort of a prerequisite, or one of those steps, I should say, that usually precedes violence. People don't normally, like, you don't throw your jacket to the ground and say, hey, how's everybody doing? You know, I mean, that's not what happens. Athonite says, surprised they didn't go for broke and charge murder. Yeah, I mean, what? Well, then of course, there is the possibility that an overcharge would have enabled Penny to walk. But so this seems more likely to be something that will put him away. And what do we do here in response to that sort of thing? Do we go around and just bitch and moan about it? No. We take the news and we go to our friends, family, and strangers, and we use key concepts as we relate that piece of news. It is the catalyst to talk about the key concepts. It's the catalyst to talk about the things that set people free. Blue Acid said, I was thinking a mean curative for self-defense. Maybe something like protection of life, person, liberty, or property would work. Well, think about it. I'll put my mind on it too. Yeah, I think you're going in the right direction, though. We have to take into consideration that even when a term was initially created to serve, or concept, a specific objective, in this case, maybe in court of law, that its function and definition in the minds of the majority of people might be something very different. So we have to take that into consideration as well. All right. The Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. This is the same Alvin Bragg who releases violent criminals. Now, this is your typical misled patriot take. It's hypocrisy. He lets criminals go. You know, this is the kind of thing that antags will go onto Twitter and they'll write, these are the people that, same thing, and then pair it with some antique nonsense, and then all of those types of people end up following and retweeting and regabbing, etc. So it's actually a really vapid and inane. Of course, there is a surface level hypocrisy, but as we've said before, when you go free, you find out that there is no hypocrisy. Then you realize there's no hypocrisy, and you're doing people a disservice if you continue to make dollars and followers out of sharing hypocrisy of the anti-whites. If you know, and you surely must know if you are studying this, that there is no hypocrisy. Both endeavors, decisions, policies arrive at anti-white conclusions. The criminals go free, but the good Samaritans get locked up. Just disgraceful. The 24-year-old Marine, former Marine, Daniel Penny, was seen on video subduing Jordan Neely with help from a few other passengers. Well, I'm wondering, are they going to be kneeling for Neely? Is that going to be the new thing? That'll be the new slogan, kneel for Neely? Is that really going to be the new slogan? We're going to have all of the police, politicians, housewives with both sets of genitalia kneeling for Neely. You would have never thought it would have happened before. There could not have been a more salient example of mass psychosis. And how do you get there? Well, if you're one of somebody who maybe Alex Jones wouldn't agree with, but somebody who is a follower of Alex Jones would say that there's 5G towers that make the people do it. Now, people are programmed with meme pathogens, anti-white concepts that inform their view of the world, which is contrary to fact in almost all cases. And they act on those ideas, those assumptions, that those things are real. And then with incentives and disincentives, you can get them to do whatever you want. And that's why the church fell. That's why the lodges fell. That's why political movements fell. That's why ideologies fell. That's why they all fell to it. Because it's on a deeper level of understanding the human psyche. We understand the human psyche. That's how we developed a method that undermines their psychological warfare. It's the 201 IQ defense against the psychological warfare that's waged against us. Kneeling for Neely. Quote, we can confirm that Daniel Penny will be arrested on a charge of manslaughter in the second degree. A spokesperson for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said, quote, we cannot provide any additional information until he has been arraigned in Manhattan Criminal Court, which we expect to take place tomorrow. So where was the grand jury? Is it true that what I heard that they just said no need for the grand jury? How does this kind of thing happen? It happens because what I was just talking about there, that anti-white narrative that we live in. If, and you want to doubt me, you want to play a little game, if another black guy had put Neely in a chokehold, you'd have never heard about that story. You would have never known. If it had been another black guy that put Neely in a chokehold, and then that second black guy was there that also helped to restrain him, you'd have never heard about it. What you had there, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. It's not as important as some might think that Neely is black. What matters is that Penny is white. He's the avatar for Western kind. And every time, whether it's a cop kneeling on somebody or whatever, every time a white person is available to prove the anti-white narrative, they become the avatar. And they're not tried just for that event. The jury, the peers, are trying them for the whole of the anti-white narrative. How do you get a fair jury in the West today, where your jurors, your peers, have grown up in the same anti-white narrative you have, where if you were to question the jurors about how often white people lynch non-white people in the West, they would tell you something insane, some insane number, thousands of times a year. It happens that often in entertainment media. Doesn't happen in the real world. There are lynchings, though. We call them social lynchings. And they are a result of the programming of anti-whiteism, the ideas with which people are infected, and then act upon when given a specific stimuli. And they all act the same. Because when you take an animal and you've programmed it a specific way, when you give it a specific stimulus, it will move in accord so that it looks like there has been some sort of prior organization. All right, let's roll. Where were we? An earlier post on social media warned New Yorkers to stay away from the criminal Neely. Quote, try to stay away from the Michael Jackson impersonator if you see him. Used to be all cool, dancing to MJ in the subway train, but as of late, he's become a maniac. Sometime in late spring, early summer, I saw him in the train. His radio effed up, and he was angry as F, cursing and bad-mouthing commuters, screaming, "What the F are you looking at? Don't effing look at me." Totally didn't expect him to act as such. Ever since that day, he's just been a scary dude. Okay, what else? Do they have anything of value here? Or is that it? Oh, I guess these are some of the arrests. Neely's rap sheet includes kidnapping a 7-year-old, punching a 64-year-old man, kicking a 67-year-old woman. This is an upstanding citizen. But that didn't stop Al Sharpton from demanding Bragg arrest Penny. Al said, if you do not prosecute, you will set a standard of vigilantism that we cannot tolerate. The precedent alone is a threat to all of us. We cannot allow the lawlessness to go unchecked. He did not need Al Sharpton to motivate him. Bragg is anti-white. He gave the case to a, what do you call it, like a seasoned prosecutor. He wanted prosecution. This was find a way to prosecute. So it really doesn't matter. Daniel never intended to harm Mr. Neely and could not have foreseen his ultimate untimely death. Neely was arrested 42 times in the last 10 years. I guess that's it. That's it. That's Penny's lawyer pointing that out. Folks, do not, it's not worth it. If you have a scenario where somebody is attacking someone and you can intervene in some way to, like, especially like if it's a loved one, obviously if it's a loved one, I mean, fight to the, but get away from there. Just get away. This civilization, this society hates you. We have lost a long time ago the United States. It's not ours. If you're white, you don't have a country. If you're white anywhere in the West, you don't have a country. My opinion. They will prosecute you for doing the right thing. And in this case, it appears a jury is going to decide, of course. And I have a hunch about where that's going to go. But a jury is going to decide for us about whether or not this was going to go to something worse, and whether or not Penny was in the right to intervene, and how much force he applied, whether that was necessary. If you have to, I mean, was there somebody on the train that mattered so much to Neely? Were there folks who were about to be attacked that he could do something and defend, or had been attacked? If you're white, you're just looking to be ruined. If you intervene in some way and and you didn't go give your name or whatever it is, you're just looking to be ruined. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's got these, and you're going to know if you're Penny that they've got beautiful video of you, and they're going to be showing that everywhere. Definitely do not stop shoplifters. Do not stop. If you see this kind of stuff happening, it's not your country. It's not your society anymore. Again, if you can protect someone's life, then, you know, you got to do it, especially if it's a loved one, or the life is yours, obviously. Defend yourself. But you're not going to get justice. There is no justice system, in my opinion, in the United States. If it's not applied uniformly to all, that means it's just a tool used to suppress some and reward others with lawlessness. So that's what we have. And I can't recall a time in my life that there weren't people who were able to just get away with criminality of the most wretched sort, and nothing happened. They just walk. And then others, they blow their nose in the wrong direction and charges them. Look at Trump right now with these charges that Trump now has to pay whatever sum for. And it doesn't even make any sense. Like, it's not assault, but it's sexual, but whatever it is. No, there's no law and order. So stop trying to be the backbone of a society that isn't yours. Start going free with the concepts that will liberate us from this and enable us to recapture our destiny. White people need a moral matrix. We have one here. We have a moral imperative that overcomes the anti-white moral imperative. It was never going to happen any other way. So that's what's going to happen with, I'll see what you all are saying about it. We still have Fox on here, and we'll see when they come back from commercial. Maybe I'll put that up on the screen. All right, over there on Odyssey, we have a $10 financial gift. Thank you very much. And that's from Humongous. Cool name. No white guilt. How do you suppose they will justify only charging the handsome young man? really enjoy the very shareable short form videos. Here's to Jason and Team WWB. God bless you, Humongous. That's cool. Thank you for that input too on the roll-in shorts. I will be continuing to do those. And for folks who have feedback, positive or constructive, I'm all ears on those. I want to make sure that we can reach as many people as possible. And so justify only charging penny, they won't really need to. The people who will object don't have the power to change the outcome or to alter what they're doing. That's the real tyranny that has been incrementally lost. America, Canada, etc., they were defeated a long time ago, as I was saying earlier. But we still had good people serving in many nodes of power across the West for a very long time. And so, in a way, it undermined the reclamation of our destiny, because people could look out into society, and every now and again, more so in the past and lesser so as we move forward, there were a correcting of justice, an achieving of justice, a righting of wrongs, a steering of the ship back in what would seem like a healthier direction, away from stormier seas. And people thought, oh, there's this silent majority. There's all of these. The problem was there was a silent majority. That's the problem. They didn't have the go free method. They were silent, and they were getting picked off, and they were losing their positions of power to anti-whites who filled those voids and who now are willing to break every law, rule, and code for the moral imperative of anti-whiteism. So arguing in favor of observance of moral and codes, and or rather codes of law and codes at businesses and schools and things of this, the ethics of business and government and etc., is futile. That's why it always fails, because they're not playing by those rules. They haven't for a long time, the anti-whites. They kill you, they ruin you, they white erase you by way of their moral imperative, which always takes precedent over laws, rules, codes. And remember, I'll mention it again because people often get this wrong. They'll say, I have my morality, or maybe it's a good Christian person, and what they're doing is not moral. It doesn't matter. What you have is the moral imperative that is forced onto society. You can't just say, oh no, I'm going to take up the morality of a faith that's already been defeated by anti-whiteism. All of them have been defeated by anti-whiteism. Nobody needs to feel special here. They've all been defeated. So you need something that specifically plays on the same field, counteracting the psychological warfare that they waged that they waged and wage against us. So I don't think that they'll have to justify. I mean, of course, something will go down on paper, but in this decade or next, they're going to be able to say, just cuz. And who will there be in a node of power for recourse to say that's not good enough? Seriously, that's where we are today. That was $10 from Humongous, and it looks like Humongous comes back again with $5 more. God bless you, brother. Let's see what he says here. Move that mic over a little bit so that it doesn't lose me when I lean forward. I live in one of the few remaining remnants of the West. It's absolutely beautiful here. Got a new job that puts me in daily contact with our people, really enjoying interacting with them and imparting the go-free concepts. Helios Abbott loves our people. Team WWB. So is Humongous Helios Abbott? God bless you, man. That's fantastic. You're doing the thing that will change everything for us. As I watch, I guess I'll bring this up on the screen, and so you all can see what they're what they're showing, let's do this, that. I don't see that showing up. There we go. There we go. So there they're showing, and you've probably been seeing all day the streams and streams and streams of endless Central South Americans, Africans, Arabs, etc., that are crossing the border in ungodly numbers. 10,000 a day. That does not include gotaways. 191,000 in March. And everybody's thinking it's not going to bother my town. It's going to be fine. Even if they don't physically show up. The price of housing, the price of goods and services, everything is for you, for your life, is getting wrecked. What's going to happen to your health insurance? Who's going to pay for all of these people to get health care? We have a humongous back again. That's the $20 minimum, folks. Let's get out some 07s. 07s, my good friends. Some raucous emojis. Some Team WWB, since he specifically mentioned Team WWB for the win. For Humongous, who is Helios Abbott, I guess. Another $5 and says, loving our people and encouraging them to love themselves and one another is the way I am restoring and maintaining the norms and expectations of Western kind. People are very responsive to it because it comes from my heart. God, that's beautifully written. Very well said. It absolutely, people are absolutely, they are absolutely receptive to the Going Free message because it comes from the heart, because it's not some sort of like optical illusion about who and what we truly are. So thank you for being that champion. Thank you for being that hero. Another $5 from Humongous. God bless this champion. Helios Abbott. Loving our people. Uh-oh. Did you do that twice? Or is it just there twice? God bless this champion. Thank you for showing up, my good friend. Thank you for all that you're doing, for taking this message of love, hope, and redemption to all of these folks that you are coming into contact with on a daily basis. All right, I think that's, let's check over here. Yeah, let's get some swashbuckling flags. Franklin's got it right, because that's swash. When you're going out day after day, you got your job, you're talking to our brothers and sisters out there in the world, and you're sharing the concepts, and you're even sharing the Go Free method when and where they seem amenable to it, then that is swashbuckling activity. So well done, Franklin. Big swash for Humongous. Big swash. All right, let me see here. Keep the 07s and raucous emojis going, please, ladies and gentlemen. Raucous emojis. Some diamonds, maybe chuck some diamonds, maybe some interesting animals. For Nick, who has shown up here with $25. 25 white well-being dollars. Thank you, good sir. This is, he says, the roll-in shorts. For the roll-in shorts, love those. It is Irish Nick. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. And there he is right there. Let's get this man some shamrock. Let's get him some. What else do they have in there that's Irish? Get this man. There you go. Cool Papa J Magic's got some 07s and some hearts. Epic. Thank you for that. I'll be definitely making more of the roll-in shorts so that I can drop in, bungee in with you all and give you some points that you can take into your conversations with our brothers and sisters and strangers and change the world we live in. Blue Acid says Daniel Penny is innocent. If 1 in 10,000 white men were willing to do that, to do what he did, and willing to do it against the scum police that are helping, well, the police are helping the scum? Is that what you're saying? Because we definitely would not encourage, oh, there's a Virginia flag. We definitely would not encourage anybody to assault police. Promedian Promulgation is here. Great to see you, champ. Gideon is here. Hello and welcome. ACB is here. Elaine says, I texted Jason the only full version of the town hall, and I hope Jason watches it before it gets deleted. It's mirrored on a small channel. Oh, okay. You mean Trump? I can come back and review. I can come back and review Trump's conversation. Is that what you're talking about, Elaine? Blue Acid is asking, what is the diamond shape? We call that the Eindelen. White Wolf is here. Great to see you. This you're talking about? That is the Eindelen. Technically, the shape is called a tetragonal trapezohedron, but in the story, it's called an Eindelen. I mentioned the other day, the reason I mentioned twice now, and it's something that you can also share, that the porousness or lack of a border is to engender in you a disassociation from ownership to the country. If you don't have ownership, then you don't defend it. You don't feel a desire to put your life, your fortune, whatever on the line for what's taking place or against what's taking place. They were just talking about the town hall. There's Trump with this very vicious woman that he called her, I think it was. He's a badass. How are all those people feeling now that we slandered the hell out of Trump? And the Trump, the person, really never matters to us. You can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about him. All that matters is how he intersects with our brothers and sisters and the notion and definition of what is America, and how then we can make use of that to bring people around, make use of that energy to bring people around. Lunder's asking, can I write the trapeze something or other in the chat? You mean tetragonal trapezohedron? Is that what you're wondering? Or you wonder how to spell Eindelen? Okay, so Blue Acid is getting us the rest of what he was thinking there. Cool Papa J Magic says, want to see Jason on the quick roll-in. I don't know about that. Part of the thing about the quick roll-in is that I don't have to, like, I can just jump in, find out what's going on, fire the thing up, share what can and should be shared, and then, like I said, bungee out again. Humongous talking about the border crossers. says he believes the number of border crossers is more likely 3 million or more. Yeah, I mean, it's in the interests of anti-whites to understate, you're right, to understate the number of border crossers, of course. So who knows how large it is? Yeah, the nasty woman. You're a nasty woman or a nasty person. Looks like Lunder found the geometric shape. Well, let's listen. I guess we can listen. Oh, no, we're going to have to then hear. I thought they were going to play some of it. Newt Gingrich's take. I remember when everybody thought that he was going to be like, he was going to save America. Okay, Blue Acid says that some parts of his comment are not visible. You mean in that the comment is there, but some of the words are missing? Because that would be very strange. It looks like 6 of 8 didn't show up for some reason. Helping, let's see. We'd be able to take back every, and then something, the enemies. We have victimizers, but okay. They're the, and then third world. Vincent is here. Great to see you. The Chanter is here. Hello, Chanter. Sky Cloud, hello. Oh, yeah, I have no idea. Unless, what YouTube is doing, I mean, you might have to try to respell some things so that we could figure out what you're saying. Jeez. They're always up to something, aren't they? The great Irish Nick showing up, saying, hey, I wonder what Newt's saying. Shall I critique that?
Dramatic reorganization of American politics. He's turning the Republican Party into the working class party. The Democrats are becoming the party of the elite wealthy.
Oh, God, this is the kind of brain-numbing nonsense. It doesn't matter how many times a Republican can say, well, the Democrats are the party of the wealthy. It doesn't make it so. You don't control the news and entertainment industry. You don't control, I mean, think about all of the movies and everything that has gone into informing the population. Oh, there you have this.
DA Alvin Bragg. My thoughts on this travesty in moments. Plus, why is the Biden administration?
I wonder what she's going to have to say. Another misleader of the Patriots. You know what I mean? Another misleader of the Patriots. More takes that are intended to undermine, to vitiate defense. Not necessarily because that's the goal, but because you have people here that have grown up and believe that it is just totally immoral. It is just completely immoral to mention that we're being victimized on the basis of our birth. And so they'll come up with anything else. Let me check over here. We'll see. Maybe we'll listen to a little bit of her garbage, and then I'll maybe critique that, and then we'll roll. We will roll out like we rolled in. Oops. Otherwise, we have here, when it comes to the border crossers, U.S. finalizes asylum restriction to ramp up border deportations once Title 42 lapses. The Biden administration has finalized a sweeping restriction on asylum that it plans to use to ramp up swift deportations of migrants who cross the U.S.-Mexico border after the Title 42 pandemic-era emergency policy sunsets on Thursday, according to internet documents obtained by CBS. Hundreds of U.S. asylum officers were trained on how to enforce the restriction on Tuesday, and the regulation was published on Wednesday, less than 48 hours before Title 42 is set to expire. I imagine this is all just show, as it always is with anti-white Democrats. We're doing all these big things to only the people who need it, only the people who deserve, and then meanwhile, they're training everybody on exactly what to say. And teams of lawyers are dispatched to go immediately file cases and objections and appeals and etc. to benefit these individuals who want to come in the country, who can be reliably counted on to enforce the will of the anti-white oligarchs to take away the right to self-defense. Many of them can be reliably counted on to vote Democrat. They all can be reliably counted on, virtually not every single one, to project their instinct onto our environment. And even if it's crime-free and even if it's wonderful, it doesn't create what we want to live in, the vast majority of us. Because how many of us want to move to Bolivia and live in the environment that they create, or Nicaragua or Mexico? Not the white areas. You know, how many of us, because if you wanted to live there, you might think about living there, right? You might be like visiting there all the time. It'd be your vacation spot. And I'm not talking about you stay in the resorts. I'm talking, you like to get out there. You like to see what they really make of a society. Not many, but they're going to bring it to your backyard. Blue Acid saying in number 6 that we missed, that he feels the law enforcement are the enemies. Now, there's certain that because they're the enforcers, we need law enforcement to go free. We need captains to go free. We need firefighters to go free. We need the generals to go free. We need privates to go free. We need sailors to go free. And there are good people in all of these endeavors, all of these law enforcement, absolutely. And there are bad ones as well. And they will, the vast majority of them, even the good ones, will carry out the orders of their superiors, because they know that they can be subjected to the exact treatment that they are being ordered to subject you to. So you're left with a conundrum there. Do you combat the guy who doesn't even want to fight you with fists, with hate, with enmity, because he's ordered to? Or do you implement a strategy that can free him and you and his commanders and change the outcome of the contest?
New York City, where the rules of the street are clear now. When a violent criminal with over 40 offenses to his name threatens and attacks people, you got 2 options. Allow yourself to be assaulted, or step in and face 15 years.
Back in the 80s, that was established. And earlier than that, that was established. This is the misleading of patriots.
Charged by DA Alvin Bragg with second-degree manslaughter. But, look, we shouldn't be surprised. Bragg has shown that he's not above targeting those who defend themselves. Like when he initially charged bodega clerk Jose Alba with second-degree murder for
We explained
defending
why that
himself
was.
after he was attacked by an ex-con last July, or when he initially hit a Manhattan parking garage worker with an attempted murder rap for shooting an armed woman.
So you see, her lens failed to understand how that non-white guy, Hispanic guy, had the charges dropped against him. But our lens perfectly explains.
Daniel Penny deserves our thanks, not this perverted, twisted style of justice. In the meantime, he'll get out unwavering support from our voice and many others. Heck, we can be in our own righteous mob without violence, but with facts and common sense for righteousness.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Overwhelmed domestically and now
It doesn't work. That was a great example. I'm glad I waited to review that. That was a great example of how patriots are misled by people like this. A great example. So what was the response? Now we know that in New York, when somebody wants to be violent, you just got to let them assault people and you just got to let them assault themselves. Things are bad there. That's the pushback. That this misleader of patriots providing this nonsense, that's what she's given them for the pushback. She's like shaming them. That's what she's wagging her finger at them. That's the pushback. Guess what? That hasn't worked. And guess what else? Then she offers you truth, that you should speak truth. Truth has been spoken for generations, and it's been losing. He'll get our unwavering support. This, you know how much he's going to care about your unwavering support while he rots in jail? We have to put an end to this. We have to put a stop to anti-whiteism. And you can't do it violently, and you can't do it with votes, and you can't do it with speaking truth, and you can't do it with finger wagging. And you can't do it with, well, golly, it's just that bad. It doesn't work with any of that. It only works with the method that has been designed to undermine anti-whiteism. And that's the Go Free method. Support shaming is not permissible. Fed. Support shaming is not permissible. We got somebody over there trying to support shame a member of the community. And so you get blocked. Fed. You get blocked, anti-white activist. That's what happens. Support shaming is not, oh no, you guys need to be absolutely poverty-stricken. It's not legitimate if you're not poverty-stricken. All right, is First Last with us again or yet? First Last, ladies and gentlemen. Financially gifting $5. God bless you, brother. He says for, oh boy, what was this for? DKL. You've got to show up. You're here, you financially gifted. Are you in the live chat? The great First Last, financially gifting, ladies and gentlemen, $5. He says it's for DKL. And he has financially gifted $5 more, bringing it up to 10. Now all we need to know is what the acronym speaks to. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. And if we don't find out today, we will find out. and I will share it with you all exactly what he was trying to say. See what the last comments tags are here. Victorian time traveler. There are some parts of Mexico that are less white erased. And I remember last year there was an article, I think in the LA Times, about how there needed to be a reckoning with those areas. Yeah, that's it. I recall that exactly as well. They were lamenting that what they project onto their environment was being muddied, was being changed by what all these white people were projecting onto their environment. Yeah, I remember that distinctly. Their Acid says they're paid to do what they love, and many more of them every day are increasingly not our people, bunch of anti-white mutants. Yeah, there are a lot of, I mean, that's one of the things I point out about, they talk about votes all the time when talking about bringing border crossers in. They're like, oh yeah, they're just here. This is the conservative leaders, the misleaders. They'll tell you they're bringing them in for the votes. Well, it's not the votes that's what's really important. It's the guns, because they go and they get their citizenship, and they give their citizenship to their family by joining the military. And now, how do you think an El Salvadorian, or wonderful people though, but not knowing of our ways, ignorant of our ways, some of those folks could be misled by awful anti-white people here. We don't want that to happen. But I think that's going to be it for the roll-in tonight. I'll be back on Sunday, and I'm sure I'll know for you at that time what First Last wanted you to know. Roll out.